Today is on basic knife cuts and how to cut an onion. Very important skill, like simple, crucial, one of the beginning skills, but very important. And also very fun too. I think cutting onions is one of the funner things to practice, I think. I love cutting onions. So basically, every onion's got two sides. We're looking at either the root end and the top end, or like where the sprout is coming from. There's really only three ways to cut an onion. I'm either cutting for rings, I'm cutting a strip like a Julienne, or I'm cutting some form of dice, large dice, small dice, mince, something like that. That's it. Like, I can't think of anything else. Those are the three methods. So depending on what method or what shape I'm looking for at the end will determine how I'm gonna cut it. First, I'm always gonna cut off a little bit of the stem side and the root side. If I'm going for a Julienne or for some form of dice, I'm gonna cut the onion in half and peel from there. I tend to just use my finger for this. I could use a paring knife to help peel the skin off, or I could just use my finger. I prefer my finger for this. And when I'm trying to cut for rings, I have to peel it whole, which is more difficult. If I was peeling more than one, I would definitely be using a paring knife because it's just easier. I always want to cut from the stem end first. And when I'm cutting for rings, there's no big secret here. I just cut for whatever thickness I prefer. I could make them very thick if I'm making large onion rings. I can make them very thin if I'm making like frizzled onions or putting them on a burger or something like that. It's just, you choose your thickness, man. Nothing too complicated about this. The only problem or danger or risk here is that because I'm using the whole onion, I have no level surface. So this is a unbalanced product that I'm cutting. So I just need to be careful about the rolling issue, the rolling danger, and make sure that I hold it tight. And I'm aware of this because this is the most dangerous onion to cut at this point. And you can see as I get to the very end, I have a little bit of root left. I'm just gonna lay it down and cut it off sideways like I did here. Another option would just be to throw this onto a meat slicer and slice it to whatever thickness and get super consistent slices as well. So for the next onions, I'm actually gonna cut for strips or for Julienne. The root on the onion is so interesting how it just holds the whole onion together. Now I can use that to my advantage, whether if I want the onion to stay together for a dice, I'll leave it. In this situation where I'm julienning or cutting strips, I don't want it to hold it together. So I'm gonna cut the root end off first, and I'm just gonna cut at a slight angle to remove the root. Because an onion is a semisphere, or an oblique, I don't know if it's oblique, whatever. Because it's round, I don't wanna cut it just straight up and down, because I will not get even cuts. I have to approach it at an angle, coming from the side and working my way up. And as I get to the other side, I have to change the angle. So this definitely requires a little bit of practice. But in this way, you're gonna get very, very even cuts. I'm gonna be coming at the side. I'm using my finger as a guide to make sure I go through well. You can see that now I'm straight up and down. Once I get to the end and it starts getting a little too small or unbalanced, I'm gonna just lay it back on its side so it gets more secure on the board. Just wanna be careful, my last two cuts, boom, boom, good to go. Very nicely, evenly cut onions. Once again, for the second half, I'm going to show you again the julienne. First, we're removing the root, and you can see the root close up here. Just want to make sure that's completely removed. For this half, I'm going to show you what happens when you go straight up and down on the julienne. You can see how that first cut is not the same as the others. And once again, my last cut, not the same as the others. This is not an even onion. Right here, you can see how this is not even. I tried to get a little bit close so you can see that it's just not consistent. Now, this lack of consistency in the onion, is it that big of a deal? Well, depending on where you're cooking and what level of restaurant, yes. If I'm in a very casual environment, if I'm in a diner or cooking simple food, no, maybe it's not that important. If I'm in fine dining, yes, this is a big deal. So I think it's just good practice to just cut it proper anyway. So I mean, learn that way, practice that way, so you know how to do it the right way. If you start working in a casual restaurant or trained in that fashion, it's going to be very difficult if you try to move up in the quality of food that you're producing and have poor technique. So it's always best to train in the highest technique possible because you can easily move down. It's hard to have poor technique and move up. So next I'm going to show you how to do a dice. So with the dice, it's a little bit different. There are two methods to do it. Either way, both ways are just a preference. There's going to be people that argue which way is better. When I'm doing a dice, I want to leave the root end on because I need that root to help hold everything together while I'm cutting through. So the first method is similar cutting to the Julienne, where I'm going at that angle. I'm not going to cut all the way through. I don't want to cut through the root because I need the root to hold it together. Now I'm going to turn the onion around and go through and start to make my dice. I'm trying to make my vertical cuts the same size as I did for my angle cuts to get as square of a cut as possible. That last piece, I'm removing the root, and just because I don't want to waste any. If I was in a super fine dining situation, that root end I wouldn't even worry about it because I do not want to get any uneven cuts into there. I'd probably just throw it into stock or staff meal. And now the next strategy, the next technique would just be 2 vertical cuts where I'm cutting completely horizontal, 3 to 4 cuts going in, not going all the way through. And then my other cuts would be vertical. I'm trying to get the same thickness from my vertical cuts and my horizontal cuts. Now I'm trying to just do this as slow as I can to demonstrate how to do this. Now I'm turning it again, cutting straight through, trying to cut the same distance again to get as square onions as possible. Now I could make this the gap that I'm cutting larger or smaller, depending if I want small dice, large dice, medium dice, or mince. Now I'm just going to demo to you again for the square cut style. This is just a mince, which is just like a super fine small dice. I'm coming in at the angle. You're seeing that I'm just putting much more knife strokes into the onion to get a smaller cut at the end. But it's the same technique, same strategy, just smaller. Now this is a technique that I would use more often with shallots than I would with onions, and I would only do this in a very fine dining situation because this is more wasteful. We try not to be wasteful. We try to always use our products. So in this situation, I would hopefully be using all my scraps for staff meal or stock. But if I was really trying to get a great mince, I would peel off the outer layers. So I wouldn't, because the inner and outer layers are different thicknesses. So I'd peel off the outer layers first, square it off so it's nice and flat. Don't have to deal with any of these curved edges. I would go ahead and start julienning. And once I had a complete julienne, I would turn the product around and go back and get my final mince. In this way, I have no root structure to hold together, so I have to kind of be careful and realign them and make sure they're nice and straight. Now on an onion, this is not going to be perfect. If I was using a shallot, because it has thinner segments, I could actually get a very, very nice mince on the shallot. And this is the best way to mince a shallot. The most wasteful, but the best result. And here I'm just trying to show you how thin you can actually make your mince. If you have a thin blade, you can make your mince incredibly, incredibly thin. And that's it, guys. Thanks so much. I hope you guys learned how to cut an onion. All right, if you found this video helpful, you can give it the thumbs up. That would be greatly appreciated. If you have any questions or comments or ideas for another videos, leave it in the comments below and consider subscribing to the channel if this is the kind of content you're into. So thanks so much. See ya.